Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, October 31st, 2023. I'm Jahmyr Gibbs, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. And joining me is
Fletcher Sharp.
We're going to get into it. I think first, though, in Daily Detroit tradition, we should highlight some good work that's kind of happening. Maxx Crosby, he is a alum of Eastern Michigan University, a real standout for them. Him and his wife have committed $1 million in donations to Eastern Michigan athletics. The field for their stadium will be renamed in honor of him in 2024. Fletcher, it's good to see somebody giving back to the community. And you know what? Eastern Michigan University, it's good to see a smaller school get a little bit of shine.
Yes, he played for Eastern Michigan. He was all MAC for 2 years. He's from Lapeer, Michigan. I know he moved out to Texas as a teen, but he's from Lapeer, so he's technically, I guess, he's a hometown kid coming back to pay some respects to a university who did well for him because they did help him get into the NFL. He also did that by just being a standout player. And that's really great to see. You always want to see players who are able to give back to universities when they can. I mean, I'm not giving any money to any of the schools I've gone to because just I don't have it. But like if I did, I would think about it. But it's good to see people who can and do, and it shows that it meant something to them, is great. Unfortunately for Max, it did not mean much last night.
Not at all.
as his Raiders should have lost by way more to the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. But Max played well, so I'm not going to, definitely get on him. But, his team could have used some of that enthusiasm.
Yeah, 26-14 doesn't reflect the actual vibe of the game.
There was a few moments where the Raiders could have pulled away earlier on. They didn't. A few moments the Lions should have had some touchdowns, maybe could have added on an extra field goal just to make the score look a little bit prettier. But Jahmyr Gibbs finally got a chance to show what he's about. Finished with 150-plus total yards. His first home touchdown where he literally jumped into the stands with the fans, which I don't know how that's not a flag anymore, but I'm happy to see people enthusiastic for it.
We need to sign whoever caught him. That woman who caught him, we need to sign. That was amazing.
It shows how much people are very much happy about that. The last time someone actually got to celebrate in front of the fans like that was Joique Bell's little wave your hand celebration where he got the fans involved. So it's really good to see a running back in Honolulu Blue engage with the fans after scoring a touchdown. There was one point I will mention that a lot of people were concerned about. Jameson Williams had a few key drops, and they were easy drops. And it goes back to the point I was saying, where obviously he's having a bit of a slower start, given the suspension, everything from that. I don't care how much he drops. Just make 1 or 2 catches, or maybe 3 catches a game, and keep blocking people on running plays. Keep hitting the defensive back or the linebacker and putting him out of the position so the running backs can get to where they need to get to. As long as you do that, I don't care how many drops you have. Personally, it reminds me back when I played Pop Warner football, and before I was a quarterback, I was a receiver, and I'd switched over from soccer to football, so my football knowledge was not very great. And they're we have 2 receivers. We have the guy who makes our catches, Dre, and we have the receiver who blocks everybody, and that's Fletcher. So right now, be a Fletcher. You're not going to make the catch? Fine. Go put that defensive back into the next field. Make sure your running back behind you or the other receiver who catches the ball behind you has the space to take off and earn your keep that way. If you're not going to catch the ball, that's okay. For this year, not next year. If it's next year, got to trade bait, trick people into thinking he's going to be something he's not. But for 1 year to have a down year, especially coming off of suspension, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I know some people were a little bit concerned. I'm fine with it. Another thing I noticed from last night, as I've said before and I'll say again, Sam Laporta right now in his Lions career, just right now in his very young Lions career, better than TJ Hawkinson's entire Lions career already. Maybe even his NFL career so far. Because he finds spaces. I know Iowa tight ends in college are great. They find space. They find gaps. You got George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, a few other tight ends from Iowa that were drafted recently. They make tight end you. They find somewhere to find space, make their blocks, get the ball, and then, get where they need to get to. But Sam Laporta has found a way to replicate that for the Lions, which has been rare because the last few tight ends they've spent high on, Hawkinson and Eric Ebron, have been a mess and have just been utter letdowns. And hopefully Sam Laporta's second half of his season, which he's not even at the first half done yet. Well, I guess going into bye week, you could say it's the next half, has been a success. He broke a few records. I know one of them was the most catches for rookie tight end for the Lions, breaking Charlie Sanders' record. And Charlie Sanders was like a Detroit institution. So to break a record from him as a rookie, that's saying something right there. That's saying how much they trust him as a player. And let alone having as many offensive weapons as they have in the passing game. And to see that, Sam Laporta is one of those weapons as a rookie is great. And I'll be remiss if I don't mention the Lions did release Marvin Jones Jr. going into the game. It wasn't for anything bad that he did. He's having some personal issues. Hopefully they can sort them out and he can be back by the end of the year. If not, hopefully they do see him again soon, because while he was a talent on the field, he definitely was a big community aspect to this team. And not having someone like that in the locker room to help stabilize stuff, it's not great. It's a sad thing to see, and hopefully whatever is plaguing him and his family gets resolved as quickly as possible.
You mentioned the more than 150 yards rushing, 152 to be exact, 37 receiving, and that makes him the first Lions rookie back since Barry Sanders to do that since '89, which I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy, but that is an impressive thing within itself.
I mean, especially since it's the first game they kind of let him actually just be Jahmyr Gibbs. Other games before, they kind of had him behind David Montgomery. There was even a time earlier during the game where they took him out and put in one of their backups late to let them run the ball, and then running back fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line, and people were like, why don't you give Jahmyr Gibbs the ball? And it's like, I understand why you take the sub. One's a power back, one's a speed back. But if he's having a great game so far, let him get a chance. Let him cook, as the kids would say. So to see him actually have his breakout game, hopefully they can expect more of this going forward. So more of a smash and dash, thunder and lightning style of play with David Montgomery when he comes back healthy.
Harbaugh, sign stealing, University of Michigan, Connor Stallions, lots of keywords. Because this is just, I don't know what's actually going to end up with all of this, because it's my experience that if you're a winning coach, you get to do whatever you want and there'll be a slap on the wrist. But the sign stealing thing seems to be snowballing into a bigger deal. The Wall Street Journal covered it and said that an outside firm's investigation showed that Michigan's coaches had access to and maintained computer drives with sign-stealing video. There's all kinds of rumors online. This is for the Michigan program. There's this whole thing with Harbaugh's contract extension or pay improvements rescinded or held off. It's all very murky and unclear, but this right now feels like the kind of thing that it's going to make a lot of noise. It's going to get a lot of people upset. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is a road bump more than anything.
We spoke about this a little off air over the weekend, just a little. Sign stealing doesn't bother me. And I know that's a really crazy thing to say. But if it was back in the 1950s or 60s, sure. I get it. You don't really have scouting reports like that. You don't really have other things. That's the one key way to communicate signs. Now, in the year of our Lord 2023, you guys literally have full-on playbooks of what the plays are going to run. Sign stealings might maybe help with in terms of we're going to do a little bit of a twist, a little bit of an audible from here. Instead of the guy, running a post corner, he's going to break it off just for a normal post. Or maybe he's going to turn it into a slant. Sure, a little bit of, complexities there. But the plays they're running. You know which players do what. You have all the highlight reels. So, does it really matter? And also, for Michigan's sake, it would matter a bit more to me. While it is University of Michigan, which has a very large national brand. I have a coach who's in almost everyone's mouth for a week for some reason. They didn't win anything last year. They might have won some rivalry trophies for sure, but they got to the college playoff. Maybe they stole the wrong signs. I don't know. But I don't want to say it's a nothing burger.
I mean, it's against the rules.
Yeah, it's not within the rules, but I'm not oh my God, it's all right, man, you stole some signs. This isn't Pop Warner. So what?
There are, of course, people arguing back and forth. Is it against the rules? Is it a gray area? Whatever. I think this is all kind of crazy to me that we don't just have radios in the helmets like the pros. To me, so much of this acts like a feeder system for the pros anyway. There's money everywhere. And if there's a worry about some smaller schools not being able to get radio systems, everyone chip in and get one, or get a sponsor or something. To me, flashing signs on the sideline reminds me of the 1950s. We don't need to do it anymore. This seems easily fixable because as long as the temptation is there, somebody is going to do it. There is too much money, too much stuff at stake for somebody not to try and do something like this.
Sports aren't played on paper, and sports are not played via sign. So you might actually know the play that's coming. You still have to stop it. And a perfect example of that, which I hate to just keep dipping into my old memory banks, we had a game against Catholic Central, and they're a very big wing tee, power I, run the ball down your throat type of team. So we know when there's a wing player, one place or another, the ball's typically going there. And we knew this. We'd studied the playbook. We'd studied everything for like 5 days. We've even run the plays in practice that they would have run. So when they lined up a specific way, me at safety was like, oh, I got to pinch up because they're going to toss the ball down here. Unfortunately for me, they did a play action pass, and the running back, who I thought was a blocker, went right by me, and they threw it right over my head to him in the back corner of the end zone. Coach was furious. Totally furious. But like, just to illustrate, we knew what was going to happen. We just had to stop it, and we didn't. So like, yeah, while sign stealing is not great, and it's not legal technically, like you still have to stop the play. You can know that they're going to give the ball to this really fast 4.3 40 running back. But if he gets to the end of the corner, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because he's gone. Playing against the Tennessee Titans, we got to stop Derrick Henry. He's running into the 4-hole or 5-hole. Great. He's 270 pounds. Good luck. Truly, good luck. If you can stop him, you can stop him. But also knowing that you have to physically stop him. And sometimes knowing the play doesn't really necessitate the ability to stop it. So like that doesn't really bother me as much. It would bother me if it was like, you know the play and now all of a sudden you can call a timeout and put a perfect thing on there. You might know the play and be like, we don't have the personnel to stop that. Oh no.
I think Harbaugh's going to get his money one way or another. I think some people were just like, hey, this is a bad optics time to do this in case they find something even more, or the NCAA finds something even more. They want to hedge their bets, especially in the light of all the mess that Michigan State just went through with Mel Tucker. Obviously, they're not the same, but it's also a bad look. And so you just hold on to when you're going to cut that check till this all blows by and we forget about it in 6 months. Because I think part of it is a lot of people are mad that the Big Ten runs right through Ann Arbor right now. But we find more, we don't know if this was a lone wolf thing. We don't know, there's the booster bit and the money going to, there's just so many layers here. And I wish I could say I was surprised. Like, that's the problem. It's like the cynical part of me goes, of course this happened. And that's terrible to say, but like, there is so much money, so much stuff at play. Of course this happened. And that's very dark.
I mean, I realize that when you see these players who leave the field and they come back, like, miraculously he's back. He's not back miraculously. He's full of Toradol. Like, come on, man. That's not a miracle. That's definitely science. And he's not going to be able to feel his leg for the rest of the night. And tomorrow it's going to feel terrible. But, like, at this point, it's just, we have small mini gladiators looking to go on there and bash their heads together to go do things. So, of course, naturally, if you can get an advantage any way you can, you're going to try to do it. I mean, with baseball, steroids, it's like, all right, you got people who are maybe having amazing career seasons, I get. But you have people who are literally like Eric Chavez, who was batting like 240 when he got in trouble for using steroids. And they're like, he's like, if I'm using steroids, it's the wrong ones. And they caught him. And it's like, you're having a very subpar year. It's not even like you're having like a career year. You're having a very average Major League Baseball year. And you got dinged. I understand the pressure to do it because you have a family to provide for and everything. So when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, no, people cheat in sports. Like, maybe not every single person. People cheat sometimes. And I'm not going to say it's okay, because it's not okay all the time. But like, I understand. And like, especially in a sport like football, especially in a school like Michigan, a conference like the Big Ten, I understand why you might want to look at signs just to make sure you have everything covered. Because whether people like it or not, more often than not, Michigan becomes the epicenter of college football, especially on the Eastern Coast at times. They have to be good. If they're not good, a lot of people are upset.
Before we go, we have to mention it. 4-0, Louisville City just wiped the floor with Detroit City. It was not the same. It felt like, again, another instance this season of two different teams showing up on two different nights. Yes, making another round in the playoffs is an accomplishment. And we'll have future talks about this, but there needs to be some retooling. Like, this isn't the on-field product that we should expect.
So I had surgery on my face Friday morning and was in a bunch of pain Saturday night, and they still had a worse night than I did. They were in the rain, getting spanked on national television, with the last goal being something you do on FIFA to someone you don't like very much, and like nothing they could do. And it was honestly their own fault. They dug themselves a hole early with a not great foul that led to a penalty, couldn't clear the ball out, and just from that point forward, the game plan was the same as going up against Pittsburgh. The problem with that is, with Pittsburgh, is they had a few very close situations where they could have given up a goal or a penalty kick, and they didn't. Against Louisville, they did, and it shot their whole plan to hell from that point forward. Because at that point, they were trying to hold the game until late and then try to throw some haymakers. But you're already down a goal. You got to start throwing haymakers now. And they didn't make the adjustment, unfortunately, and they got buried. And this can't happen next year. Like, I understand, like you said, making the playoffs is good. For one segment earlier this year, I mentioned, maybe the teams don't need to make the playoffs. And fans, like, jumped in my inbox and, like, called me stupid and a bunch of other. So I understand. People want to make the playoffs. But would you rather make the playoffs and then be bad again next year, or not make the playoffs, take that smack in the face, and then use that realization to get better for the future? Me personally, the second one. Because if you keep making the playoffs and being garbage, it doesn't mean anything. Like, you're not winning anything. You're not winning any trophies. You're not getting any plaques or any banners. If you make a banner for that, like, that's pathetic, and I'll tell you that to your face. Kudos to them. 2 years in the USL Championship, 2 years in the playoffs. 2 years of having someone else choke and you fill in for their spot. Personally, I wouldn't want to do that anymore. And I know the new coach coming in has big shoes to fill. Trevor James did a lot of things well, did a few things not well. There's a few personnel things I think they should be changing for sure. But you can tell when they come in, who they bring in with them and the system that they want to talk about playing. You'll know how serious they are from that point forward. If they come in and say, we want to try to, ride the wave of what's happening, they're going to have another bad year. If they come in with some drastic changes, as much as they can change, someone's trying to do something to shake some stuff up, which honestly at this point shows more life than they showed on Saturday.
I literally cackled when Dario Suarez came out onto the field. I literally cackled.
Because the players you have, either you don't trust them to do the things you need them to do, which at that point, like,
they shouldn't be there. If you don't trust them, they don't need to be on the roster.
That's damage you can't undo anymore.
Yeah.
If you don't trust them to go out there and score your goal when you need it or put them out there to start, then, problem. Or, like, they're hurt. And if they're hurt, I understand that. They shouldn't be on the bench if they're hurt. Like, I understand you're not having enough players, but, like, find some people to roster to keep them off the bench. But if they're on the bench and they don't go in, it's because you don't trust them. And, like, if there's a trust issue, hey, if someone wants to go, they have a 2-year contract, but they've only been there for 7-8 months, you don't trust them? Okay, like, if you got to pay extra money, then maybe, I don't know, figure something out. But, like, if you got to get them to go, like, get them to go. At this point, all you're doing is just killing the players on the field. Like, if you only play 11 players for, like, 5 straight games, like, what are you doing at that point? The players don't need that.
Yep. We hope for better things. All right, Fletcher Sharp, so good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. With that, I am Jahmyr Stays. Feedback is always 313-789-3211 or dailydetroit@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Remember that you are somebody. We'll see you around Detroit.